In Google Sheets, we use sort to take an entire data range and return a completely sorted result without altering your original data. SORTN is much more than just a standard sort. While you can use it to replace the basic sort function, it has incredible power when you start limiting your results. Let's first understand how it replaces sort and then we will move on to its core functionality. See your sample data here in columns A through Z. Let's sort the marks column, that is the second column, by descending order, and then use the name column for a secondary sort in ascending order. The standard sort formula looks like this. Sort A to C, 2 means the column to sort, false, 1 means the column to sort, and true. We can achieve the exact same result using SORTN. The two additional values here are 9 to the power of 9 and 0. They are the difference makers. They represent the two new arguments SORTN introduces. The first one, n, is the number of rows to be returned. The second is the display types mode, which is a number from 0 to 3. This mode tells the formula exactly what to do when your sort columns have identical or tied values. That is the crux of the SORTN function. When you use SORTN simply to replace the basic sort function, you set n to a sufficiently large number like 9 to the power of 9 to return all rows, and you set the display types mode to 0, which is the default behavior. Now let's explore why the display types mode is so important. Assume our goal is to find the top 3 students based purely on their marks. Here is the formula for that. SORTN A to B 10, that is the range to sort. 3 is the number of rows to be returned. 0 is the display types mode. 2 is the column to sort, and false means descending order. This returns the top 3 mark scorers. Now, when you examine the return result, you might see that 2 students are tied for the second highest spot because they both scored 95. This is where the display types mode becomes critical. You need to decide, should the function return just 3 rows or should it include all students who tied for that third spot? The display types mode argument allows you to control this behavior. You can decide whether to keep all duplicates, remove them, or handle them in other specific ways. There are 4 display types modes in SORTN: 0, 1, 2, and 3. Mode 0 is the simplest. It behaves just like a regular sort function and is the default mode. It does not specifically handle duplicates or ties. You only use this mode when your primary goal is to sort a data range in ascending or descending order and then simply constrain the number of rows to be returned. We have seen examples of this already. So let's move on to the first mode designed to manage ties, mode 1. Mode 1 is straightforward and very useful. Suppose we set n to 2. This means we want the top 2 rows after sorting the marks column. Mode 1 dictates that if the nth position, here the second position, has a tie, the function must return all the tied rows that share that nth mark. Therefore, even though we set n to 2, the result may contain more than 2 rows. For example, let's use the formula SORTN A to B8. That is the range to sort. 2 is n, 1 is the display types mode, 2 is the column to sort, and false means descending order. As you can see, this returns 4 rows because the second top score has duplicates and mode 1 includes all of them. Now let's change Christine's mark to 99. When you look at the updated result, you will clearly understand that mode 1 returns the top n unique marks plus all results that share that nth mark. Remember, you can replace false with true to sort by ascending order and find the lowest n scores, including any ties. If you want to return the top n records but only the first unique occurrence of the tied value, you would use this mode. For example, to get the top 3 marks holders without duplicates based on the marks column, you could try SORTN A to B10, 3 is N, 2 is the display ties mode, again 2, that is a sort column, false, means descending order. However, this might not always feel fair when finding top scorers. Why? Because mode 2 returns the first row it encounters for that unique score. If you were to simply flip your source data and apply the same function, you might get a different student's name because SORTN now sees the tie in a different order. To deliberately get the last occurrence of unique record, which is useful if your latest data is at the bottom, you must first flip the data using sort. Here is how. You might find this flipping technique invaluable in real-world scenarios, especially when dealing with time-stamped data. For instance, if you have multiple entries for the same client and the last entry is the most recent, you can sort the data by the date column in descending order. When using this technique to remove duplicates across the entire dataset, use 9 to the power of 9 as your n value to ensure all rows are considered. Mode 3 is often considered the most equitable way to find the top or least n scorers. It returns the top or least n marks and includes all tied rows that share those top or least n marks. Let's find the least 2 scorers and all their tied duplicates. For the type SORTN and select the range A to B10. 2 is N, 3 is display ties mode, 2 is the sort column, and true means ascending order. Look at the results. Even though n is 2, the function returns more rows. Why? The two lowest scorers are, say, 85 and 90. Both Christine and Linda scored 85, and Steven, Annie, and Christopher all scored 90. Because mode 3 includes all duplicates for the least n scorers, it returns all these students. Simply replace true with false in the formula for the top 2 scorers and all their duplicates. Finally, let's discuss how to break ties using a secondary column. Yes, you can tell SORTN to use more than one column to determine the sort order. In our sample data, I have purposefully included a grace marks column, column 3. We can use this to break a tie when students have identical scores in the primary marks column. First, let's look at the result when we only sort by marks. SORTN, select the range A to C10. Type 3, that is N. 2 is the display ties mode. Again 2, the sort column, then false, descending order. Now let's add the grace marks column as a secondary sort criterion to break the tie. The secondary sort uses column 3 and sorts in descending order, ensuring the student with the higher grace mark is returned first in case of a mark tie. That is the power of the SORTN function. It is one of the best and most sophisticated data manipulation functions in Google Sheets, and it is something Excel still doesn't offer. If you master the N and the display types mode arguments, you will find it incredibly easy to manipulate and analyze your data. Thanks for watching. I will be back with another tutorial soon. Until then, bye.